now we will move into our panel discussion with Mrs. Angeline Huang, Director Technologies for Learning, our Master Teacher, Mr. Joseph Tam, and Ms. Lillian Teo. So we will be answering some of your questions that you have populated pre-session. We have also dropped in the chat Padlet link where you can respond, where you can share your questions with us, and we will try to respond to them online. And if we are unable to address your questions, we will follow up on these questions after the session. And I think some of you are also asking about the slides, so don't worry, we'll be sharing this deck of slides with you and also circulating the recorded version of this session with colleagues who are unable to join us today. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump to our first question. So one of these questions are consolidated from the pre-form survey, and some of you have asked what kind of advice we have for teachers who would like to expose the use of AI to primary level students, bearing in mind that they might still lack self-regulation skills and critical independent thinking abilities. So like anyone on the panel to address this question first?
Okay, I'll go first. Okay, so if Macklin can go back to the slides that we shared with the guidance for different age groups of students. So you will see that in primary school, our recommendation is really that P1 to P3, we would discourage direct use of AI. Okay, and for P4 to P6, it is supervised use of AI, which means the teacher will need to be around when the students are using the AI, so that really the teacher can look at, I think, how the students are interacting, able to make sense of the output for the students. So just a couple of things. One is the age advisory for the generative AI tools are quite important for teachers to go back to before you introduce the tools to them. Okay, because for many of the tools that we know, they do put out very clearly what is the age group of students that they recommend the generative AI to be used for. And that is also because back end, right, we know that generative AI works because of the huge database, right, upon which the AI is trained on. And many of this data is meant for much older students. Because of that, the system will need to go through certain cleaning of the data, additional scaffolds, in order for the generative AI tool to be used appropriately by the students. So in the case of ChatGPT, right, the terms of use is very clear. It's 13 and above and with parental consent, which means technically primary school students cannot directly use cannot use ChatGPT. But it also means that the teachers can be the ones who are role modeling the use of ChatGPT for students, right? Because we do want to help students understand what is a good prompt, for example, how do I make use of the output to actually refine my answers. So it is okay for the teachers to use ChatGPT in a primary classroom, just that your students should not be directly making use of ChatGPT. So if you're thinking of other tools, please go and refer to the terms of use to make sure that we align accordingly. Because these guidances come about because these companies are responsible, they looked at the data upon which the generative AI is trained on, and then make certain recommendations for the age groups. Okay, the second thing I would really encourage the teachers to think about is how do you intend to use generative AI? If it's for example, to give feedback, which is one kind of exchange, right? You key in a certain response and then the generative AI gives you a response back. That one is not so open-ended, which means maybe the probability of students misusing it is quite low, right? Which means your supervision can be slightly lower. But if it is a dialogic chatbot, right, that you're asking the students to interact with, and then you know that students can be very creative, right, with what kind of prompts they give the chatbot, then you might really want to supervise the students, right, identify who are the students that you need to pay attention to, and then which are the chat logs that is quite important for you to follow up after your lesson, okay? The third thing I suggest is also test the generative AI. So inside the checklist, we have given you sample attacks, all right? Things that students might try, right? For example, if students might be at risk of maybe self-harm thoughts, right? And if I key into ChatGPT or whatever generative AI, what are some of the output given? Are we okay with the output? So there are different categories that Magdalene went through just now. Please do use the sample attack prompts that we have suggested so that you can assess the appropriateness of the output. And of course, if, right, the chatbot allows you to put in additional guardrails, please do that, right, so that the output can be appropriate for your students. My final suggestion is use the features in SLS, right, be it the learning feedback assistance or SAYLIS, because these are produced, right, developed by the ATD team. We have gone through very rigorous checks to make sure that we abide by some of the things that we're recommending for you to abide by, which means we are safe, right? So if you're a primary school teacher hoping to introduce AI tools, right, for your students, hopefully your first port of call would be the SLS features within SLS, be it the learning feedback assistance, right, the logic agent, hopefully that we can open up to you later on, okay, so that you can be quite assured about the accuracy and the safety and the curriculum alignment of the output. Okay, so long answer, but I think those will be the critical steps for you to think about. Okay, Joseph, Lillian, any things you want to add on?
No, I think Angeline, you've covered everything very comprehensively. Thank you.
I just thought maybe I can add on, if let's say the primary school teachers would like to expose the students to AI tools, maybe instead of them interacting directly with the AI tool, the teachers can be the one generating the output and get the students to evaluate the outputs that the teachers got. Yeah, and from there we can also still teach AI literacy skills.
Thank you very much, Angeline and Lillian, for sharing with us what are some strategies that our primary school colleagues can consider if they want to use AI. And in the interest of time, we'll jump to the second question. The second question is whether the use of AI will help lesson or assessment preparation in the use of assessment preparation lead towards teacher descaling in the longer term, and what strategies we would suggest for teachers to avoid over-reliance on AI use in their professional practice. For this, we're wondering whether our master teacher would like to start the ball rolling.
Thank you, thank you. I would like to refer back to our STP. I think at the end of the day, let's start with the positive classroom culture, which includes, very importantly, knowing our students. I think when we think about the use of AI, the AI is not there to know in your classroom. They will know the kind of students that you have. They will know the readiness of your student. They will know the peculiarities, the idiosyncrasies of your students. You know them best. So at the end of the day, AI is there to just help you, perhaps to give you more ideas, or perhaps to start the draft rolling. At the end of the day, I think a teacher has the agency to think about what kind of lessons, for example, do my students need at this point in time. I cannot say that I'm just teaching a G2 class and therefore all G2 class lessons should be the same. I think we all know that teaching is never about that. Teaching is always about my students is at this juncture here. We need to think about what we can help the students at this juncture. That's the first step. Second thing is, you know that when you see the same class today and see the same class tomorrow, there is still a difference, because it could be that they are after recess, just after PE, and you need the lesson cannot be just a very static kind of exercise. When it's after recess, we need to think, okay, the students will be having food coma, most likely. The lesson need to have a lot more activity, more hands-on perhaps. You know, if a lesson is just after PE, the students are tired physically. So maybe you want something that is interactive, but maybe not so intensive when it comes to, you know, the demand physically. So even when I'm talking about all these things, you already know that AI cannot basically de-skill teachers. The teacher basically has that power. You know, that's where you are a teacher and AI is just simply a tool to all of you. We need to be able to tell AI what to do, because you are the master in the classroom. So AI is just there as a servant to help you, to help the students to learn better afterwards. So I think at the end of the day, we shouldn't see AI as a threat. I think AI is a very, very powerful tool. Just like 30, 40 years ago when calculator first appeared. a lot of people back then were very, very fearful about calculator. Will calculator de-skill students in their mathematical skills? Look at 40 years later. Where are we with our calculators? Calculators are comfortably going into the examination hall for some papers because we know that we can actually adjust our syllabus, adjust the kind of assessment that we have to be higher order, to go beyond what previously calculator was not in the classroom, couldn't do. So I think at the end of the day, we need to have that kind of mindset so that we are able to use AI in a very, very positive manner and not think about over-reliance. So teachers, I think we are all very, very proud of our profession. So at the end of the day, the use of AI should actually enhance, the value of you as a teacher, as an educator who really know your students, who is able to deliver the kind of instructional objective to them in a very, very powerful and meaningful manner moving ahead.